Hi, I'm Lisa Steele. I'm an author, blogger, and fifth-generation chicken keeper. I live in rural Maine with my husband, flock of chickens and ducks, 2 dogs, an indoor-outdoor barn cat. We moved to Maine for the peace and serenity. We wanted a simpler life and to step back in time where there are still corner stores and your neighbors know your name. Welcome to my farm. Finally, winter in Maine. When you live here in Maine, you really have to like the snow. We don't see green grass from November to April and sometimes even longer, but at least we can always be assured of a white Christmas. The long winter does mean some extra chores. We have to cut and split and stack wood. We heat our house with a wood stove all winter, so we have to make sure that we have enough wood to get through the winter. Chickens are pretty cold hardy, ducks and geese even more so, but they do appreciate a little extra care. So I like to wrap the run in tarps to create a wind block for them. And I also fill the coop with some nice fresh straw to keep them nice and warm when they're sleeping, and they get scratch grains before bed. I don't heat my coop, it's just too great of a fire hazard, and there's really no need. By feeding the chickens scratch grains before bed, they digest the whole grains and cracked grains, and that helps create body heat that keeps them warm. Scratch grains really can be anything. It can be wheat and oats, cracked corn, sunflower seeds, just a mix of seeds and grains that you put together. You can buy it commercially or make your own. And I toss them out for the chickens in the late afternoon, gives them something to do, and it fills them up right before bed. It's the first winter for our new geese and also some of our ducks and chicks that hatched this past spring, but everybody's kind of taking it in stride. They're not really too keen on walking on the snow until they realize that it's not going anywhere, and then by the end of the winter, they'll all be playing in it. Another reason that I love living in Maine is that we go to a local Christmas tree farm, we pick out our tree, we cut it down, and it's become a tradition to go to Piper Mountain Christmas Tree Farm the weekend after Thanksgiving and get our tree. I hope we can do it today before the snow gets too heavy.
Hi guys.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Lisa?
Good.
Nice
Glad to see you again.
Yeah, it's good to have you back.
I'm excited to pick out my tree today. You are new owners of this farm now.
We are. We bought a property from a couple named Jim and Norma Corliss. They owned the business for 50 years and built pretty much what you see around you. And we bought it 2 years ago and have kind of been learning on the job from them, and now it's ours. Now we're responsible for everything that happens.
What kind of trees do you grow? Are there different varieties?
There are a couple different varieties, but mainly we have the balsam fir,
Okay.
which is a native of the state of Maine.
Okay.
So they
Makes
grow
sense.
pretty nicely here. We also have some Fraser firs occasionally throughout the plantation that have been planted over the years. Our process starts in May when we first replace the trees that we've taken off the previous season. So if you come up in December and buy a tree, I have to replace that. It's a kind of recyclable business.
I love that.
So a tree comes off and a new tree goes in its place. And then we wait in January and February for the snow to start to melt off. As soon as that happens, we're back in the fields, kind of prepping. In about mid-July, when things start to harden up, that's when we come out here with shearing knives. And my guys hand shear all of these. They go to the tops to make sure that they've got that nice center run that you see that you can hang your angel or your star on every year. And then the preps start for getting ready for people to start coming to the farm.
So like this tree, how old is this tree roughly?
So roughly this is probably a 7-year-old tree.
Wow.
They call it a 3-1 tree. 3 years in its first seed bed. It's transplanted, which gives us a more vigorous root system. And then it's uprooted, brought to us, and we plant the roots back here. And then in about 6 to 10 years, that's normally when they're harvested. So this one's a 7-year-old tree.
Besides Christmas trees, you guys offer a lot of other stuff in your shop, plus the donuts and cider.
Absolutely. Everybody comes, I think, for the free cider and donuts. However, we do have wreath makers that have already started production for your Christmas wreaths. And we sell a couple thousand wreaths every year.
Wow.
And we have a crew that's been here for about 20 years making the wreaths.
So all the wreaths are made by hand?
All the wreaths are handmade. Now we do have a machine that helps them with the spooling.
Okay.
But each wreath that you get from Piper Mountain is handmade.
You are retired Navy, my husband's retired Navy, and you do trees for troops. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. There's actually a story to it that makes me so excited about doing it. I served out of Kuwait. We flew SEALs into southern Iraq, and the dining facility where we ate, there was a Christmas tree in the center of the dining facility. And the smell, when it hits you, when it's lit and you see the gifts underneath the tree, it brings you back home. It doesn't matter where you're at in the world. It's like a good song. Because of that, we were offered the opportunity to donate trees, the Trees for Troops. And Jim and Norma have been doing that for years. A lot of the growers from all over the state donate trees, and annually we do about 300 trees from the state of Maine, and they'll be distributed to bases throughout the country so that they can have that experience of feeling like they're back home.
It's kind of like a sign that you were meant to be the owner because you have that military connection also.
I think so, and Jim doesn't talk about it a whole lot, but he actually did a little bit of time in the Air Force, so I think he's got a natural inclination to being friendly toward a veteran organization.
That's really neat. We are lucky enough to live really close to your farm, but if somebody can't get here, where else could they buy your trees or your wreaths?
So we do have a brand new website that we just launched this year. It had been there in the past, but we've kind of revitalized it.
Okay.
We will ship between a 4.5 and 6 foot tree anywhere in the country.
Wow.
So we can do that. We do have a local hardware store that we're in a partnership with, Erickson's Hardware in Hamden. And then we work with the Detroit Feed Commodities, not Detroit, Michigan, but right here in Maine, Detroit.
Do you want to help me come find the perfect tree now?
I will certainly help you, and I will certainly help you cut one down, but I want you to pick it because everyone that comes out here, they have a different idea what a Christmas tree should look like. And if you look around, it's like people.
Right.
They have their own,
Tall
I don't want to say
skinny,
personality,
short,
but
and a little chubbier.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you're going to see some different trees of all shapes and sizes, just like people. And so what you think is a perfect tree is what I'm going to help you cut down today.
Okay.
Perfect.
This is a good one though, right?
It is. I like the shape. You've got a little top, the prune there, so you can find it perfect for whatever ornament you're going to put on top.
Right. Is there a secret to cutting the tree down?
I think it's just brute strength and determination. You could lean that just towards you a little bit. That will help get that last little bit.
Timber.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to grab right here in the middle,
Okay.
and I'm just going to toss it in the back of the truck.
Okay. Let's put it on the top of the Subaru, and then I have some Christmas shopping to do.
All right, well, let's head back to the shop then, shall we?
This is about as fresh a tree as you can get. What are some tips to keep your tree looking fresh and staying green as long as possible.
Absolutely. One of the things that we recommend to all of our customers is that you cut about 1 inch off the base as soon as you get home, right before you put it into your stand. Put it in the water, and as long as you sustain the water level above that cut, the tree will continue to take up the fluid, the water, as if it's still alive.
Now, what about those little packets of tree saver or putting sugar in the water? Is any of that necessary?
So I'm going to tell you something, and I want everybody out there to listen. I sell that in my shop, and you're welcome to buy it. It does have some sugar content that does help the tree, but I think if you do the little trick that I gave you, you can save the money on it and keep your tree alive for probably a month or two after you take it home.
Good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are back from the tree farm, and we got home just in time because it started snowing. So it's the perfect afternoon to bake. Today I decided I'm going to make a pound cake. Traditionally, pound cakes were made with a pound of flour, a pound of sugar, a pound of eggs, and a pound of butter. But I like to make what I call a half-pound cake, which fits into a regular loaf pan. So I'm using a half a pound of each. So first I'm going to add 2 sticks of butter to my stand mixer. And I'm just gonna get those going. Then I'm going to add a cup of regular granulated sugar, and I'm just gonna let that go until it's nice and light and fluffy. So that looks good. So now I'm going to mix in the eggs one at a time and beat the batter until each egg is incorporated pretty well. And I'm just gonna scrape down the edges of the bowl to make sure it's all mixed in. The yolks are so orange, you can tell which chickens are out there eating all the bugs and weeds and good stuff in the lawn. And I'm just gonna let that go until it's mixed really well and smooth and there are no lumps left. And now I'll add some vanilla bean paste. You can use vanilla extract in the same measurements. I just like the vanilla bean paste. It's sort of a thick liquid and it has flecks in it, so it really looks like real vanilla bean, but it's a lot easier to work with and a lot more economical than vanilla beans. I'll add about a teaspoon of that and just mix that all in. Okay, now for my dry ingredients, I am going to whisk some cardamom into my flour. I like to substitute cardamom in for cinnamon in recipes. It's kind of similar, it's a really warming spice and it just has a little bit different flavor than cinnamon. If you have a recipe that calls for cinnamon, you can sub in cardamom, no problem. So I'm just gonna add a teaspoon. Then I'm going to add a little bit of salt. Salt in baked goods really brings out the sweetness. So I'll just add about, half a teaspoon of salt. Then we'll whisk that up. Then once that's combined, I'm going to slowly incorporate it into my wet mixture. And then just scrape the sides down one more time to make sure I get all the flour that didn't get mixed in. Okay, that looks good. And now I'm going to fold in my cranberries. I used frozen cranberries that I thawed and dried, and then I tossed them with a little bit of flour. Whenever you're adding berries to a batter, you want to dust them in flour because it helps suspend them in that batter better and not all fall to the bottom. So I have about a cup of cranberries here, and I'm just gonna fold them in really gently and try not to make the juices kind of run into the rest of the batter. Now I have a loaf pan that I have buttered and floured, and I'm just going to pour the batter into it. It's pretty thick batter. Pound cake is a thick, kind of dense batter. Just kind of smooth that out. Okay, that looks good. So I am going to pop this in the oven at 350 degrees for about an hour, and it's sort of light golden brown on top. While the pound cake is in the oven, I'm going to make some eggnog. The chickens slow down laying this time of year, so we don't have lots of eggs, but 3 of our brand new chicks from this past spring just started laying. They're French Morans. They lay these beautiful dark chocolate brown eggs, and I've been saving these eggs for a special recipe. So I'm going to use 6 of these egg yolks in my eggnog. To get started, we're going to whisk the egg yolks and sugar together in a bowl until the mixture is smooth and lemon colored. Next, in a saucepan over a medium-low heat, we're gonna combine the cream and milk along with some ground nutmeg and ground cardamom and a pinch of salt. I'm gonna keep whisking until the mixture starts to bubble around the edges. Once the milk mixture is heated, I'm going to take a ladleful of the milk and whisk it into the egg mixture. This is to make sure that they don't actually cook and curdle, but I want to bring them up to the temperature of the milk mixture. So I'm just gonna keep adding a ladleful at a time and whisking after each addition. Then once I've incorporated most of the hot milk into the egg, I'm going to pour the whole thing back in the pan and return it to low heat. Then I'll whisk for a minute or 2 until the mixture thickens slightly, and then take it off the heat. Enjoy at room temperature or serve chilled. The pound cake is out of the oven and it's almost finished cooling, so now I'm just going to make a really easy cream cheese frosting for it, and then I'm going to drizzle some white chocolate on it and get it decorated with some cranberries and fresh rosemary sprigs, and it's going to be so pretty and festive. To get started, I'm going to add my butter and cream cheese to my stand mixer. That's nice and fluffy, and I'm going to add in my confectioner's sugar pretty slowly. Make sure it mixes in really well. Then I'm just going to add in a little bit of vanilla bean paste. Next, we'll put the loaf on a pretty plate and I'll get it decorated. I want it kind of swirly so it looks like snow. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. Now I'm just going to put some of those fresh cranberries on top. Give it a little bit of a festive color. And I have some fresh rosemary sprigs for some greenery. And then just a little dusting of powdered sugar. And this looks perfect. It's going to be a nice sweet treat to enjoy after we finish decorating the tree this afternoon. Perfect for a snowy winter day. Still snowing out, so I thought it would be fun this afternoon to show you this quick and easy DIY project that you can probably make with things you have around the house. These cute fire starters are a great hostess gift. They're great to use in your wood stove or your fire pit, or when you go camping. To get started, you need an empty egg carton. We all have plenty of those lying around, I'm sure. And then into each of the compartments, I'm just gonna put some shavings. If you use shavings in your coop, you can use those. Those are gonna be really good fire starters. Then I found some pine cones outside, so I'm going to put a little pine cone into each compartment. I'm going to break a cinnamon stick and put half into each. Then I'm gonna cut a piece of cotton wick and tuck one into each compartment. I want to make sure that the end is hanging over the edge, so when I pour the beeswax in, You'll still be able to light your fire starter. Beeswax comes in white or yellow. I like the white, and you could get it in bars or these smaller pieces. And I like the smaller pieces because they melt quicker. So I've had some melting over the wood stove, and they are liquid and they're ready to pour in now. Then I'm just gonna pour some of the beeswax into each compartment so I cover the shavings. The beeswax sets up pretty quickly, so I just wanna tuck a little piece of rosemary into each one before the beeswax solidifies. Then just make sure that my little tail of twine is sticking out. Let it set, and then once the beeswax is solid, I can trim the twine so they're just about a ½ an inch. So then to use them, you can either just snap or cut an individual one out, light the wick, and put it in your fire pit, wood stove, or campfire. And as the cinnamon stick and rosemary burns, it's going to give a really nice smell, and it's going to help to start your fire. I had some cranberries left over from making the bread, so I decided to make the chickens some treats. They really love suet in the winter, and it helps them to keep warm. And I also like to put a tree in the run for them, so I went out in the woods and found them a little tree, and I'm gonna use these treats to decorate the tree. I'm going to make them in this mini donut pan, so there'll be a hole in each, and I can just thread the treats through the branches. To get started, I'm just going to put the chopped cranberries into my bowl, and I'm gonna add some split peas. I like the red and green because it's super festive. I'm gonna add some cracked corn. That really helps the chickens stay warm in the winter. And I'm also gonna add some cornmeal just to give them a little bit of a yellow color. And then to that, I'm using melted coconut oil. You can also use lard or suet or any kind of melted grease, but just something to kind of hold all this together. Spoon it into my mini donut tray. Coconut oil is solid at room temperature, so these will eventually harden up, or you can pop them in the freezer to make them solidify a little bit quicker, and they're also easier to pop out of the tray if you put them in the freezer. Happy holidays from all of us here at Welcome to My Farm.